That was Ain't That a Shame by Would You Kindly. This is Alternative Modulation on Lancer Radio 99.9 WYML. I actually have the lead singer from Would You Kindly, Miss Gina, in the studio with me today for an exclusive Lancer Radio interview. So real quick, why don't you introduce yourself and the band?
Hi. So I'm Gina Marie, and I am one of the two founding members of Would You Kindly. We are a 5, sometimes 6-piece alternative rock band out of Kenosha, Wisconsin. And we play energized rock music around the Midwest and sometimes a little bit further. That one time on the East Coast. And just loving to make music about being human.
Awesome. And then I also have Josh, the band manager, here with us as well. He won't be doing as much of the talking, but you can also introduce yourself.
No, I'm Josh. I am actually an old friend of Gina Marie's, and when she had asked me to help support this group, it's been just like as she's always expressed, a brick on the gas pedal. So
no one picked it up.
No, nobody's picked it up. So I'm happy to be here today.
Awesome. How did you guys meet? How did the whole band get together?
The band started when I went on a date with the now lead guitarist and my now husband, Paul Hoskins. And we started doing open mics together, just the two of us. And Rustic Road Brewing Company in Kenosha gave us our first show. And shortly after that first show, we found our original violin player and drummer, who have since moved on from the band. And we auditioned those positions back in. But also, Josh and I went to college together, actually, at Robert Morris University in downtown Chicago, where we also met our bass player, Daniel Harrison, who learned how to play bass guitar for the band. I looked at him one day. We'd been friends for like 9 years, and I was like, will you buy a bass guitar? And he was like, yeah. I was like, oh, okay, great. It's that simple. He's like, yeah. And so that's how we kind of got the lineup we are now. But like the other band members... So I mentioned Paul Hoskins, our guitarist. We have our bassist, Daniel Harrison. Our drummer is Miss Behaven, or Haven Wells, who's an open mic host in the Kenosha area, as well as a teacher of young ones who do music. And then our violin player, Megan Weaver, who plays electric 5-string violin. And sometimes, on occasion, we get an electric cello player named Cameron Fair to hang out with us. And he does all of our recorded studio work and, on occasion, our live shows.
Very, very cool. What's the meaning behind the band name?
Ooh, all right. So when you're at an open mic and you're more than one person, they like to tell you, like, you need a name. What am I going to announce? I'm not going to announce Paul and Gina. And I was like, okay. Well, Paul and I were both playing the same video game when we met. It's called BioShock. And it is this post-apocalyptic underwater city with trigger swords, like soldiers, where like a trigger phrase will make him go super soldier, and the trigger phrase was "Would you kindly." So it's a very sweet sounding name with a little bit of spice behind it, kind of like our music.
When I was looking for you guys' tracks on YouTube, I kept getting BioShock videos.
Yep.
And I thought it was just a coincidence, honest to God.
100% totally the reason why was that video game. We were both playing it, and it's just so much fun. And actually, our other band members have since played it just so that they could understand the reference.
I've not played BioShock. It is on my list, and I know that everyone is like, you need to play BioShock. You need to play BioShock. And I had it for all of like 1 week and never booted it up.
Yeah, that'll do it. Yeah, it's a beautiful RPG. Beautiful
That's
game.
what I hear.
Yeah.
You guys have been making music since 2019?
Yes, since 2019. Our final form, which is what I like to call where we're at now, where it's the 5 of us, it's been about 3 years since then. So about 2021 was when we got Haven, who is the newest member of the band, and really kind of started forming this new album we just released, where Ain't That a Shame is from. But since 2019, we started as a 2-piece, and it was a wild, wild time getting through like the pandemic and just all of the craziness that was 2020. And still making music after it, which was kind of the whole goal, was just to make it through that time to get back to doing what we love to do.
Yeah, it was always crazy watching Gina Marie and Paul, going to open mics or going to their first couple of shows. And Paul would actually have a kick drum with him while playing guitar. So he'd be sitting there just going to the beat, getting that little bit of bass in there, and you're just like, what is going? This is an interesting
very very Mumford & Sons.
Yeah.
When I saw Mumford & Sons live at the Fiserv, that was the same thing that they did for a couple songs, so it was pretty funny.
Yeah. I imagine COVID kind of really put a big road bump in for making music for you guys, especially since you technically started just before.
Yeah. So February of 2020, I had surgery on my sinuses. I had a infection, and they had to go in and surgically clear out all of my sinus cavities, take my tonsils out so that I could be healthy. And 2 weeks later, when I still couldn't talk because I had just had a tonsillectomy, the whole world shut down. And so I went from knowing I was going to have 4 or 5 weeks off to recover to, oh, I have no idea when I'm going to get back on stage. And we were fortunate enough to find, we had a friend that was hosting an online open mic weekly. So as I started getting my strength back, we started doing that every Sunday. We would sign into this online open mic where local artists could take the live stream for the mic for 15 minutes and play 2, 3, 4 songs, and just kind of rotate through and support each other during that time. And we played a couple of virtual festivals as well, which setting up a sound studio like this for a 6-piece band in my living room for the first time ever was a nightmare. It was one of the hardest things we had to like coordinate logistically to make sure we had the equipment for. But I was very fortunate that the band was willing to just kind of stick through it and keep working. And we wrote the last couple songs off of our album, The Aftermath, during that time, and started a couple that ended up on later albums. But we just really focused on writing and honing our craft and waiting it out and just hoping for the best, keeping the positivity in our hearts to that the world will come back to us when the time is right. So
If you don't mind me asking, did COVID cause any like sort of turmoil in the band? I'm not necessarily looking for any like juicy drama details, but was there at any point where half the band was like, we can't do this, the world is shutting down, the world's coming to an end, and the other half was like, no, we got to keep going?
we gave ourselves a lot of grace during that time. For anyone's health and comfortability if they needed to step away for a period of time, which did happen, just for safety for various reasons, where some people would go away and come back. But at the end of it, we're more than just a band, we're a family. We have dinner together at least once a week. We had breakfast together before our show on Saturday. I cooked for everybody, and we're all standing up in our drummer's wedding next year. Like, we have become much closer than just people who make music together. And I think that that's really what helped us make it through that time, because our little COVID pod, I was about to get married to our guitarist. Our Josh and Daniel were part of our little COVID bubble where we kind of hunkered down together. And depending on people's health statuses and COVID statuses and things like that was when the other band members started coming around again throughout that time. So we really just gave each other grace and patience because it was a really hard time for each of us as individuals. And I think that care is really what helped us make it out the other side.
Awesome. What inspired you guys to all get together and start making music?
I have never wanted to do anything else. For me personally, music is the thing that I never let myself believe in. I never let myself believe I was going to be good enough and strong enough. And then I got to college and someone was like, you can sing, right? And I was like, well, yeah. And they're like, no, like you can sing and you can write and you should do it. And so I started doing it in college with a good friend of mine who I met. I grew up in Round Lake. And so right down the road from here, and someone that I met in high school started helping me write music because I don't play any instruments. And it is all I've ever wanted. So when I got through that growing phase and some of the stories that I tell on stage all of the time, I then met Paul, who was a drummer turned guitarist who sometimes played piano and was just doing it for the fun of it, but had more talent in his pinky finger than I have heard in anybody in my entire life that I've known, like, personally. And we were like, well, let's do it. And we're just going to do it until we can't, right? We're just going to have fun and we're going to try. And every yes that we can say comfortably and confidently, we're going to take that opportunity and we're going to keep doing it. And that just didn't stop. We just kept saying yes to every opportunity that came our way that was within reason. And it changed my perspective on the whole thing. It changed Paul's perspective on the whole thing. And now we're at a place where there's nothing else to do other than figure out how to make this dream work. And every step we take is just furthering towards that eventually. I just want to do music full time. We all have day jobs, 40-hour-a-week day jobs. And
That's how
then
it starts usually.
Yeah. And then 40 hours a week in the evenings, we're doing music because it's not just what we do with our lives, but it's who we are. It's in our blood. We are musicians, we are artists, and we want to use that art to make the world a much brighter place. And the skill I have to do that with is my voice. So, for all of us individually, our journeys are a little bit different, but at the end of the day, we want to impact the people around us and help the world heal through music.
Awesome. Well, on the topic of inspiration, I did ask the band to submit a couple songs that they were inspired by for today's set. And so the entire set was chosen by the band and Josh as well. I don't know if you would prefer me to, generalize you in with the band.
Non-performing member is what they call it.
Non-performing member.
Non-performing member.
So we got a lot of artists coming up. I believe next up is Mayday Parade.
Yes.
Yes, specifically chosen by the band. And then obviously throughout the show, I'll be playing a couple of their songs, but most of the set was, actually all of the set was 100% picked out by the band.